Hey, dude.
Hey, fucker. This idea sucks, dude. I'm freezing.
I thought it would make good TV. I just thought it'd be more interesting to watch that way, you know?
I don't know why you let me do this, but it's not gonna work, man. I can't even fucking function. This is horrible.
I mean, dude, it's not like I'm not trying out new stuff over here, too.
It doesn't matter. I'm the one having to do it. You're not even...
Chill out, dude.
Let's do something fucking more fun. God damn.
I don't know. I thought it'd be edgy. Yeah, all right. Well, not everything wins, you know? Hold on one sec, dude. Could I get some guacamole over here? Okay, sorry, dude. Yeah, nothing. No one. Okay. Yeah, well, I'll see you when you get back. 2 weeks. All right, bye.
The idea of myself sharing my point of view, my philosophical approach to tattooing and art, and how that can influence each person's approach without removing their own voice from their work, without trying to influence them to become something they're not, and just to share the inspirations that I have through my career with other people and other things like that that would be, I think, valuable for people to watch and for them to use in their own work and their own lives to help them better become what they would like to become as an artist and as a tattooer. I think what I'm really doing here is refining my work and understanding what I like in the skin, understanding what has longevity in the skin, or at least in what I see working better, and simplifying some parts that I overcomplicated for the sake of trying to do a bunch of work and make something fancier than it really translates into later. I remember a long time ago, and this is like, this is a long time ago. I would say like 25 years ago, 23 years ago. I remember doing a piece specifically where I did a light source on it, and it had, I used a pastel gold and a pastel lemon yellow. And as the hottest part of that, and then maybe went to orange and then a little whatever, and then that was the core, it had a core shadow on this, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. But the person came back, the tattoo healed great, you know, it was no issues. And I remember seeing it, I don't know, 5 years later maybe more. It might have been 10, let's say 10 at the most though. At the most it was 10 years later. And I remember shaving it, looking at it, getting good photos and seeing this highlight color that I did between the pastel gold and the pastel lemon. And there was no difference. It was the same color now. It was just a pastel yellow color. There was no differentiation in that. And that I remember that specifically at that time really made an impact on me, realizing, okay, maybe these subtle color changes don't add up in the end. And that, in a way, simplified my work, because now you have to rely on, I had to rely on line more and shading and shape and design more than variations of color to define what's going to happen with these images. And therein simplifying my work, I guess. There are some different considerations for a one-shot tattoo that I take. Obviously, there's things like pain thresholds, the amount of work I can get done in one session, and the design type, meaning if I over-design or make too complicated, maybe I can't finish it. Oftentimes with one-shots, especially now, you know, I'll say that I've been tattooing a long time. I've been tattooing forever. I've been tattooing 27 years. you know, I'm not as eager to sit down and jam a whole fuckload of detail into a piece and just labor over that shit. Because, for one, I think in the end, maybe it doesn't make a huge difference. And then two, I don't have the patience. I want to see work get done. I don't, my stuff isn't as simple as a lot of people's. And I'm not saying it's, it's not detailed. Some people would definitely argue that it is detailed, but it's less detailed than it used to be. And I use less of the constructs that I used to. And that's because I just don't have the patience, honestly, to do that work anymore. And I think it has helped my work breathe a little bit more and probably add to its longevity a bit. I had a little bit of trouble with the angle of the sword, and I just didn't like the way that it was looking. I had Henry come and help me get that a little square. I would say that, honestly, I do have a little bit of trouble making like perfect ellipses. I don't know why. Ellipses in space for me, parallel, a little weird. Anyway. I will say that putting stencils on is one of my least favorite aspects of tattooing in general, period. I don't think that I'm great at it, and I don't enjoy it. Probably the part that gives me the most anxiety of any part, especially if I'm doing a big piece and I have to move it, I'm pretty pissed. So now I see a skin type, I know what I'm gonna do, I've kind of figured that out. Okay, good, it's probably gonna go the same colorway that I was thinking. There might be a couple things that I haven't fleshed out in my brain yet, but I'm already kind of know what I want to do. When I've discussed with the client what they want and the style that we're going to do it, then I know the approach that I'm going to take immediately, and it kind of gives me a cue in already on the types of needles I'm going to choose to execute. I might not know the exact size, but I'll know the style for the most part. So I've already chosen all that stuff. And once they get there and I see the size of the tat, then I just adjust. If it's a little bit bigger, maybe instead of a tight 7, I use a tight 9 to get this look that I want. Use the control of the needle or lack of control. Maybe I'm doing a simpler tattoo and I just want a really bold, simple line. Then I'll use maybe a straight or a hollow to give me this look that doesn't taper, that doesn't have as much finesse, because then it ruins the look that I'm trying to achieve, and I want to get a certain look out of it. Now that I've seen it on the leg, I already knew the color scheme roughly, but I think I made some on-the-fly adjustments to this piece. I didn't want to use as much black in the hair as I traditionally would have, because the piece is relatively small and it is fairly detailed with the hair and the thorns. I felt like if I used too much black that it would lose a lot of detail and kind of bury it. In the end, I just wanted a little bit of a different approach, maybe one that was outside of what I usually do, which is a little heavier in the black, just to experiment with it and give it a little breathing space to let the lines communicate the piece more than the shading. I felt it was a successful tat for a few reasons. One, that I had done the drawing well, and I think that's a paramount thing. You don't have to have great technique to do a good tattoo, but you have to have a good drawing to do a good tattoo. If you have shitty drawing and you have immaculate technique, the people that understand art and tattooing understand that the tattoo is not very good. The layperson will accept that that is a really amazing tat, but really it's kind of a piece of shit because if the drawing sucks. You can only polish it so much with a tattoo machine. I think I decided to do the sword green to give it a little bit of a, you know, a little more of a woodblock print feel, and then to tie into the thorns, because that way I reduce my color palette, and I think that helps slow the piece down and a little easier to digest. I think the eye doesn't like it when there's a million colors, so that's why I did that. For me, I think it's better. Actually, I learned some of that from Henry. Henry kind of cued me into that a little bit more when we worked together. You can make a really well-drawn design still come off with mediocre to average technique because the design has so much energy and the correct draftsmanship in it to convey the message and the power, etc. It's something that took me a little while to understand, and it's just something that we've always discussed. I was confident in the piece, fill in some colors, kind of done. I could have colored it, honestly, I could have colored it ugly and it still would have looked strong in its own way because the drawing was solid. That's how much I believe in that kind of thing. Or I could have done it in 3 colors. I could have done it, just done the red and the black, and it would have worked without any of the blue or any of the green, any of those things. I could have left it just in 2 colors. With black, with some whip shading, not even gray, just doing whip. Just whipping out, using my hand to create different variations of the black, and then red. It would have worked because the drawing was ready. For me, that's the paramount thing of tattooing, is getting the drawing right. You know, when I do work, I don't just do the drawing and go, man, this is fucking great. Man, I can't wait. This is going to be so cool. I look at my drawing and go, okay, I don't know. And I look at it and I flip it around. I do a lot of edits and I send it to my friends and I say, what do you see that's wrong with this? Can you help me with anything that looks awkward or stiff or whatever? And so I had already had Henry help me in that morning looking at it, giving me feedback. And so I knew that between him and I, that the drawing was going to be pretty successful. So I didn't have any hesitation going to execute the work. And that gives me a lot of confidence knowing I have the drawing done well. I know how to tattoo well already. My technique is good. So from here on out, it's really just about getting the color schemes right, getting the shading right. And then after that, it just kind of lets itself become what it's going to be. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't take advantage of or practice or even maybe know about or are secure enough to let their ego go and show another person, hey, does my drawing look weird? Maybe a little bit? Do you see anything? Yeah, man, this part right here looks a little weird. I wanted it to look like that. I wanted that part to look stiff and weird. No, I wanted that hand to be on the backwards. All right, dude, fucking go for it. You know, because that's the way some people work. swear to God, that fucker's like guacamole. Hey, what do you think about trading some of this tat time for that fur? I'm freezing my balls off at night, man. That thing looks warm as hell.
Yeah. Sell them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A fur for a tattoo. Cool. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Cool, man. Yeah, that sounds great. I'll call you later, buddy. Okay, bye-bye now.
Someone comes to me and they want something or whatever, one of the first things that if they're being a little, I don't know, verbose in their descriptions of what they want and how they want it, I usually tell them almost immediately, you don't do the composition. I do the composition.
Sure,
when
yeah.
they start telling me like, I'm thinking about having this here, I'm like, just stop right there. Because that's the cardinal part of what they're not going to do is
Right.
decide on where things go. Because the subject can be drawn however or whatever, but that stuff for me is really hyper important. So I kind of lay that stuff out. Like, I'll do the composition. Don't worry about that part. We probably won't do those things where those are. Maybe we will. And then I start thinking about, okay, for the subject and the body part and the person, what look would look good on them that matches kind of what they're wanting from
For
me.
sure, yeah.
And then I think about, well, fuck, what do I want to make? Like, what do I want to make on them? What's going to make me excited? What's going to make me feel like I did something cool? And then I start thinking about styles I might have done or styles I've done that I didn't like that are
Right,
similar.
that didn't
Like,
work.
fuck, okay, definitely not going to go that route again. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do this kind of thing that I kind of fall prey to in my own, like, work or something. I'm going to push over here. And then I'll make some notes on paper and stuff, usually to like remind myself.
Sure. I wouldn't think that your that your clients would kind of direct you just because
Not
of
too
the
much,
way.
but I want to make sure that I give them the kind of tattoo that they somewhat expect of me,
Of
and
course.
the stuff that people really seem to gravitate to in my work and show examples of is the stuff that I've mostly created with very little limitations.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think, okay, well, fuck, you guys really love this stuff, so don't make it go the other way.
But then
Because you're not going to get that thing.
Yeah, and it's harder when someone does give you complete freedom. I actually don't like that. I need some kind of basic direction. Like if someone comes in and they're like, just do whatever you want to do. Usually you draw, like the first sketch you do, they're going to be like, I wasn't really thinking that. But it's like you didn't think anything, so...
Right,
yeah. But yeah, I definitely like a little bit of direction, a few ideas, obviously with the subject matter or whatever, but then most of my clients kind of let me run with it. And I think it's, the way that you talk to them as well and sort of sell them those ideas that can kind of completely change, an example of a guy that I did a consult with. He wanted a water sleeve, which water is not. It is like my worst subject to do. It's like, no. He wanted water and forests. So like he ended up getting, a lady holding a skull with like, so yeah, but you have to really, it's like the intention that you have and the enthusiasm you have. Most people are pretty good. Like the clients that I have are pretty good with like letting me bend it or like move it in the way that I want it to be.
Right. So once you've kind of like sold them on something, how do you, when you start the drawing or before you start the drawing, what do you think about?
Usually now with the iPad, it's so much easier because you can kind of create, for lack of a better term, a mood board almost, like with just things that inspire me. And I do a lot of like with the pattern work, like the deco kind of larger, more abstract stuff, I'll just like pull a bunch of like old images or books that I have from like, you know, noir photography or jewelry. Like I have a lot of books that are just like antique everything.
Right.
So like I just put a lot of that stuff around without necessarily like copying it line for line, but it just gives me like a feeling of contouring the body so that it's flattering and putting, you know, solid black areas that might give an illusion of a small waist or like, yeah, so there's all with that style I focus on that mainly.
You know, you're getting a really good reaction from a couple pieces, and more people want to get something similar. I saw that piece, I love it, I want to get something like that one. So it tells me by you saying that, you know, you want to change those and make them different, that you're at least somewhat critical of your own work.
For sure.
Like, how critical of your work are you, do you think?
Terrible to myself.
Yeah?
My internal dialogue sometimes, I'm just like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? I think everyone is critical of themselves, but yeah, I think this year is 20 years of tattooing, and, you know, sometimes you feel like you aren't relevant anymore, or there's just so many good artists now, and I don't want to lose that drive or enthusiasm I had when I was 25 to just be like the best that I can be. And, you know, it's hard. I find it harder now because I'm definitely critical as I see other work that I think is incredible. It's really easy to do a good tattoo. You know, you're going through the motions, homework, get the drawing done, but like without putting that special like energy into it.
Right.
And that's what I struggle with, because I don't want to just do good tattoos, but I get tired. It's like I get burned out from it, and that's why I started doing the ceramic stuff, because I needed to feel like really excited about learning something else. And it really helped with, you know, making a 3-dimensional cobra makes you understand how to draw that bit. You know, like there was so much that kind of helped me with being more enthusiastic about drawing tattoos.
So how do you expand who you are as an artist? What makes you get there? We're not even talking about tattooers, but anything, right?
Yeah.
The influence of it can be like you saw a black and white photo and you're like, there's something about that I'm going to use in a certain way to get this mood, get this feel.
For sure,
and
yeah.
pull this into this work in a way that works, and maybe you can't pull into that piece that you're working on now, but maybe in 6 months you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Now I got this piece that I can kind of start playing with this idea and inject it into this work here to explore it better.
It just develops naturally because I have to push it to make it different to the last one I did. But yeah, with the referencing things, I definitely have like a huge collection of books, but it's all mainly, you know, I have a lot of tattoo books or tattoo related books, but it's mainly like old photography I love. And I do a lot of portraits, even if it's, you know, I've made up the face. I do a lot of, you know, that kind of work. I have a lot of like silver screen photography, like, because they're just so beautifully finished, all the airbrushing that they used to do, and the makeup, the lighting. I find that stuff really inspiring.
Right.
Someone comes in and they want you to draw something that I would never usually take on, but then for whatever reason it comes out way better than I thought it would, and then it kind of inspires me to, or people will then respond to that, so then you have to develop the style more because people want it, but you don't want to do it the same as that one, so you naturally just keep it rolling forward. And I think, you know, people have asked me before, like younger tattooers or whatever, and they've said, you know, how do you get a style that's recognizable as your own, or all that kind of stuff that people are really concerned about.
Right.
But I don't think it was like a conscious thing that I wanted. I did really want my work to be recognizable as Rose did that tattoo, but I think it just developed that way because, yeah, people respond to one design you did. You have to continue. So
when we're talking about, you know, people coming with a example of a work that you've done that they really like, and they're like, I want to get something like this. Say it's older.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that old piece. And you're thinking,
yeah.
man, that thing sucks.
Working in Melbourne for 5 years, the clients I had there, what I was doing there, the way I booked my appointments there and just went through a list and who had the coolest ideas would get booked in. I didn't honor some kind of like system.
Right.
So a lot of the work I did there, I look at now, and every year that I go back, I basically just have the same clients that I had then. And there was a back piece. I tattooed this girl's hands when I was there a couple of weeks ago, and I did a back piece, full back butt on her. And I was like, oh, can I get some photos of it? And I was like looking at it like, fuck, why don't I tattoo like this anymore? Like, it was way more simple than my approach would be now. And I think also working at Kings Ave and just taking appointments that I wouldn't have probably done back then because it wasn't lining up with like exactly how I wanted to work or what I wanted my work to look like. Sometimes I feel kind of lost in like what my style is now, because I'm doing a whole heap of different stuff that I'm totally happy to do. But it's weird. I honestly see some work that I did even like 10 years ago that I like better. Yeah, it's an odd feeling.
I do that sometimes as well. It's hard sometimes when they're like, oh, I like it like this, and you're like, all right. And then you for me, I have to pull back for a second, really think about, okay, how am I going to make it look now? Because it's not really what I do often.
Yeah, for sure.
Or how I designed it necessarily.
But then when you do that and you do go outside of like what you wanted to originally do, are you sometimes surprised and happier?
And you can definitely learn a lot from it, right? I think that's the cool part. You're like, oh, it's different than I thought it would be. It's maybe cooler than I thought it would be.
I feel that happens a lot, especially with just being thrown out of your comfort zone and you have no choice.
Do you find yourself creating more independently, or do you discuss things with other people that you work with about process, about vision, about... You do discuss with your coworkers much?
When I started tattooing, I was only allowed to use single needle outlines and 3 needle shading. And it was crazy. Like some of the shit that I did on my friends, like the single needle line is like this fat, like it's horrifying to look at.
That's amazing.
And
that sounds
it was
hella bikey.
Homemade rotaries that the guy made me pay $700 a piece for. Why? Ask my dad if he would pay for them. But so basically going from that start to then working with like Dean Sacred and Adam Kraft and those guys, where Adam's like, fuck no, just use an 8 round for everything, 8 round liner. Do that. They were doing like big Japanese work, and I hadn't been around any of that stuff. Like that was before you had a Google image search. It was like tat magazines that you'd be savoring and being like, holy shit. American work, like the scene was so small when I started in New Zealand. So they're working with Dean and Adam, my style, my idea of tattooing completely changed. Every shop that you go to is a completely different vibe, and everyone's going to give you some input. Traveling, you know how it is. Everyone impacts you, especially in the first like 5 or 10 years.
Right.
I've definitely worked in shops where a younger artist just kind of adopts the style of like the older artists that are helping them without realizing that you can learn those things but keep your own flavor with it without it imprinting too hard. This guy wanted like a back piece based on a Pinky Yun design, and
cool.
I drew the snake, but I have a tendency to think what would that look like in real life? Instead of it just straight up, like traditional flat. So the snake, I'll be like, because he does, a million of those style snakes. So I'm like, how would the belly go on this? It's looking too realistic. Like it's looking too perspective and stuff going on. Yeah. So I'll definitely get input for certain stuff, like Grizz is a master at that shit. So yeah, I get input, but I wouldn't say I ask for critiques on things. And everyone's very busy at that shop. In New York, it's like everyone's got their shit going on. You don't want to like pull them aside for too long. And,
gotcha.
Yeah, but ahead of time, everyone is super into giving input and helping, and yeah. But I wouldn't say I get it. I would ask every day. didn't know that we were in a shot together. I pictured an interview like
Just you in a
behind
chair.
it. Yeah, I only asked because that's how they make you do shit, so
On
that
TV.
there's no
So they
interviewer.
make you do
But it's
shit,
not. It's not the setup that I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you're so seasoned
Yeah.
on
No,
television.
I'm not.
Well,
Scheinfeld.
Shiny.
okay.
Cover your heels.
I thought I was
kinda on the
allowed my
cord.
coffee. And
You are. I just.
Okay.
Your heels on the cord.
I'm just gonna get on Tinder right now.
When we were shooting Rose and I was eating, that I didn't think that you were going to film me the whole time. That was going to be on Rose's face, so she was talking so fucking much. And in the end, it's just me fucking eating for the
Eating the
episode.
entire
Yeah,
time.
I know.
That's what we said.
You
We said
probably set
during
that up
it.
like that because you're a
No,
fucker.
I said, dude, are you gonna eat the whole time? And then you said no, but then you just held it the whole time. So we didn't want to tell you what to do. Next time I'll be more pushy with it, you know. Okay. Anyway,
All right. That's not going to work. Oi, cunt. Lines. Yeah. It's a little better. It's a little better. Not bad.